What's going on YouTube? Today I want to talk about how we can become free from suffering. Now a lot of people don't think this is possible, but because suffering is actually mind created and we can become free of the mind, then we can become free of suffering. Now only when you've had truly enough suffering in your life, then you will decide that you've had enough and you're going to give it up. This is when you begin to awaken. Suffering is a great spiritual teacher because it allows us to awaken and to realize that we don't actually need to suffer. So one of the most important things we need to become familiar with is the Four Noble Truths known in Buddhism. I'm just going to name off the four truths right now. So the first truth is the truth of suffering. The second truth is the truth of the cause of suffering. The third truth is the truth of the end of suffering. And the fourth truth is the truth of the path that leads to the end of suffering. So I'm going to start explaining these because they don't really make any sense if you just name them off. So the first truth actually just identifies that there is suffering, the presence of suffering. And that's why it's called the truth of suffering, just because you're aware of it. You're just aware that there is suffering. And the second truth is the cause of suffering. So what is making you suffer? Even though it's mind created, there is something triggering the fact that you're suffering. In Buddhism, desire and ignorance are at the root of most suffering. So the third truth is just telling us that there is an end to suffering. And in Buddhism, that end is called nirvana. The fourth truth is the path that leads to the end of suffering. And in Buddhism, this path is called the Eightfold Path. So the fourth truth is the path to the end of suffering. And in Buddhism, this is called the Noble Eightfold Path. So I'm just going to name off the 8 steps to the Eightfold Path. And basically what this is a method to end suffering. Number 1, right understanding. Number 2, right thought. Number 3, right speech. Number 4, right action. Number 5, right livelihood. Number 6, right effort. Number 7, right mindfulness. And number 8, right concentration. If you want me to make a video about the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path in more detail, then I can do that. Just let me know in the comments. I will get on it. This is one method of becoming free from suffering. So I'm just going to talk about more methods we can do to actually become free of the mind and then become free of suffering. So to become free of suffering, we first need to identify that there is suffering. Much like the Noble Truth in Buddhism, the first Noble Truth is just acknowledging that there is suffering and it's there. So that's our first step. It's just to be aware that it's there, and already we can try to separate ourselves from the suffering instead of fully immersing ourselves in it and creating more negative patterns and more negative thinking, and then it will just go downhill if we keep doing that. So just separate yourself as soon as you realize that there is suffering. Be aware. So once we've realized the presence of suffering, we need methods to actually separate ourselves and heal ourselves from the suffering. So I think the best method for this is to actually just be in your body. I think the best method for this is to actually be in the body and practice being in the body as much as you possibly can. What I mean by this is to feel your inner energy, feel your inner body as often as you can throughout the day, during basically anything you're doing. And this is so powerful because what happens is when you're in your body, you're completely present, you're completely in the moment, and when you're completely in the moment, you're completely present, the mind is quiet, and there's no suffering. So I think this is the most effective way because you can do this as often as you want. And this kind of practice takes a long time to get good at it. I'm still not 100% on it yet, but it takes a long time to just get good at it. But all you can do is start now and keep focusing on it now. So you basically just want to remind yourself all the time to do it. And as you keep focusing on this energy, it will grow and become more powerful. I talk about this in a different video called the Inner Body Method. You can go watch that video after you finish this because it explains what I'm talking about here in more detail. Suffering is resistance. And if we can surrender to what's happening in the external environment, then it will bring us internal peace. So when we don't like something or something's not going our way, we have to surrender to it and just accept it. And if it's so bad that you can't accept what's happening, no matter how hard or how much you try to let go, and you just can't let go, you can't surrender to it, then what you can do is surrender to what you're feeling about it. If you're feeling angry about it, then you can surrender to the anger. If you're sad about something, then you can surrender to that. You don't necessarily have to surrender to the situation, just the emotion. When we do this, it brings a lot of peace into our life. It allows emotions to come and go through our bodies. They don't get stuck in our bodies and physically harm us anymore. They just flow in and out, much like thoughts. If we can allow our thoughts to flow in and out of our bodies, they won't get stuck, and we won't have to focus on them so much, and they won't turn into negative thoughts. So sometimes our minds get carried away and they picture really bad scenarios, or they can't deal with what's going on, and it brings us a lot of negativity, a lot of suffering. So one way we can actually end the suffering and lessen it is to strengthen our minds. Now, you can't take control of your mind per se, but you can definitely influence it, and you can definitely make it stronger. And what I mean by stronger is just making new neural connections and making those neural connections stronger. So if you're constantly thinking negative, then you're going to have strong negative neural pathways. So what we want to do is actually meditate to strengthen the positive neural networks in our brain. And by strengthening these neural networks in our brain during the state of meditation, we end up having that state for longer. So automatically after a few weeks of doing this, you're going to notice that you're more at peace and you're happier with your life, just because all you're doing is actually strengthening these neural pathways during meditation, and they're going to reflect into your life, and you're going to be in that state for longer. And this is a great way to influence your mind to think better, happier thoughts. Once you realize that you are infinite radiant energy, you will have no more suffering. Now, a lot of people blame their suffering on other things, other people, but doing this is blaming other people for your own negativity. So you have to take your suffering into your own hands and stop blaming other people, because blaming other people will only bring more suffering. These people don't have control over your mind, neither do you, but bringing negativity into their lives because of your own negativity is not the right thing to do. You have to bring this upon yourself and let it go, because no one else can really do it for you. It's your job to take control of your own consciousness, your own state of being. It's your job to awaken and to awaken others. By spreading suffering and negativity, it makes it harder to awaken yourself and others. So just be aware that there is suffering, and it will automatically lessen it. If you're aware of it, you can acknowledge it and then separate yourself from it. But basically, you just want to find the energy within yourself and find the pure being that you are, and then you will realize that there is no real suffering, and all suffering is mind created. Our bodies, our forms are just like clothes. We wear them for a bit, we take them off, and then we put on new ones. It's much like our bodies. We're only in our bodies when we're alive. And then once we die, it's only our forms that die. Who we really are doesn't die. We're always infinite energy. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helped a little bit. If you want me to explain anything in more detail, just comment down below. Make sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications, because there's going to be tons more videos coming sometime soon. I'm working on it. Peace.